Well, have you ever had a moment that maybe felt like a setback in your life? Maybe once, twice. Maybe you got bumped off of a flight, got delayed, ready to be home, you're stuck in the airport, but you end up meeting someone that becomes a lifelong friend. Or maybe you get fired from a job. That's kind of yucky, right? That always feels like a setback. That's not anything that's fun whatsoever. But yet, then we go on and find our dream career, and we're so much happier than we were at the place that we just got canned from, right? And a setback is defined as an event that delays our progress or reverses some of the progress that we've already made. But as we see in these examples, these setbacks were actually setups for our good. And that's our talk today as we wrap up our series this month, which is called Living on Purpose. Living on Purpose. And we're going to be looking at the spiritual truth today of harmony. We talk about harmony as a God quality here in the Science of Mind. We're also going to be looking at the fallacy of drama and chaos, and whether or not those are necessary teachers for us. Sometimes we think they are, sometimes maybe they're not. We're going to look at that. And we're going to be using our movie of the week. As Diane said, it's Groundhog Day, and that's going to be the backdrop of our talk today. So if you've seen the movie, you know that it stars Bill Murray and Addie McDowell. And they are news people from the Pittsburgh area. And they are now being sent off to Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, that you may have heard of if you've ever watched the little groundhog come out of his little cage and tell us if spring is coming or if winter is continuing. Anybody ever seen that little? Yeah, okay, we all know what that is, right? Well, the weatherman that's going up to do the reporting, his name is also Phil, which is kind of interesting. And he thinks this is just totally beneath himself. He just is like so overdoing this report. He thinks it's horrible, and he's just destined for bigger things. So it's February 1st. They ship them all off up to Punxsutawney, and they go up, they spend the night, they get up the next morning, they do the news report, and they're ready to get the heck out of town. But as they're leaving town, there's a snowstorm. Well, the weatherman, Phil, did not see, he didn't predict the snowstorm was going to hit. But they get blocked, the roads are blocked, the long distance is blocked, everything's blocked. So they have to go back and they spend another night in the hotel. So the next morning, Phil wakes up and he's hearing the same radio broadcast that he heard the morning before. And he's thinking, oh my gosh, guys, you're playing a tape of yesterday. What's wrong with you, right? He's thinking it's just a technology thing. But then as he goes out into the morning, he discovers that everybody else thinks that it's still Groundhog Day also. And he knows it's not. So there's confusion, and he can't figure out what's going on and why nobody else thinks it's the fourth instead of or the third instead of the second. And so he's confused. He's caught up in some sort of a strange time warp. And that's the premise of the entire show and what happens to him throughout. There are many religious and spiritual interpretations of this movie. It seems every faith tradition claimed it as their own. And we have some even say that it's Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's stages of grief that we see him going through. Others say that it is a ritual, that the Groundhog Day ritual itself relates to spring's resurrection from winter. And the Buddhists suggest that it's their teaching. It's the reincarnation story. But the truth of the show, which is very much like the truth of our lives, it's about what you bring to the theater. Because in the show, they don't really tell us what is happening, why it's happening, or how long it happens. We see a number of days, but we see some seasons and so forth, but we really don't know how many years have elapsed and why it's happening to Phil, why this, it didn't happen to anybody else in town. So we're left to our imagination, if you will, our own interpretation, to discover for ourselves what that means. So whatever we take into the theater of life is our perspective and our interpretation of this show. For me, the story came down to he's a very egocentric guy, and it's that egocentric self transforming into its spiritual magnificence. It's greater yet to be. And we get to see it splashed across the screen. It's also a story of love. Now, I don't necessarily classify it as a love story, but a story of love. You see, Phil, though quite cynical and egocentric, was touched by love in the very beginning of the show, first 3 minutes of it. He's touched by love, but he didn't recognize it. He didn't recognize it. I think his soul did, though. I think his soul recognized it in that moment. But in order for him to experience that calling, he had to transform his life. He had to become someone, he had to change his behavior, become someone different in order to be able to align with that which his soul went, that's for me. That's for me. Much like Joseph Campbell's story of the hero's journey, he then began a spiritual journey, much like we have our own spiritual journeys around here in our own lives. Now, if you recall from the reading that I did this morning in our Joyous Living Journal, that quote was, "Spiritual growth is a sense of harmony in your human affairs, with no great emotional roller coaster or fluctuations in facing the human condition. It's not based on outcome or income. It is the natural spiritual state." Now, I don't know about you, but for me, that's a really lovely definition of what my goal is, what my seeking is on this spiritual journey, is to get to that place of harmony, to get to that place where I don't have these peaks and valleys and this roller coaster of fear and stress and drama and chaos and all of those things that we sometimes experience, but to get it kind of balanced out a little bit more to where it's more harmonious, more that God quality of the harmony in the universe that we see reflected around us. So I don't necessarily believe that it has to be that chaotic way. I don't think it has to be that way. I think there is many unique ways to experience our spiritual journey as there are humans on the planet, because we each get to choose how we're going to experience that. Some like to choose to look at life as a series of challenges and obstacles, right? It's got to be tough. You've got to be tough. You've got to overcome those challenges and those obstacles, and that's what it's about. Others like to look at it as a lesson. We're in Earth School, and we're going to be learning lessons, and I'm going to keep learning those lessons and keep going through those challenges until I learn, and then I can graduate to the next level. And then others like to look at it as a process of unfolding, like the idea of seed to plant to blossom, that idea of growth, that natural order. So however you look at it is how you look at it, right? That's your interpretation of how your spiritual journey in your path needs to be. Now, there is a scene in the movie where Phil is reminiscing over a drink. Actually, he's having coffee, I believe. But the local boys that they're having drinks in the bowling alley. And it's, Joe, you got this, show that. Let's show that scene. Nope. Nope. It's not participating. Meow. Meow.
Got my attention. It's a challenge.
No, it's not playing for some reason.
It's not playing. Okay, so I'll tell you what happened. He's sitting there and he's reminiscing about, oh my gosh, I had this great experience and it was this, that, and the other, and why couldn't I have that great experience over and over and over again? And then he philosophically says, you know, the other guys say, he's got a beer, and he goes, you know, some people would look at this glass of beer and say it's half empty. Some people would look at it and say it's half full. He says, Phil, I think you're the half empty kind of guy. I think you're the half-empty kind of guy. And he goes, well, what would you do if you were in a place where the same thing happened day after day after day, and no matter what you did, nothing ever changed? And the other good old boy sitting at the bar says, sounds about right. Living in Puxatawney, Pennsylvania, I'm sure it was. But anyway, the point of that story and that clip was to show that he was looking at life as half empty. We all are at that choice of looking at the beer glass as half empty or half full. And when we look at the idea of a harmonious life, we have to ask ourselves, is this for me? Is this for me? Now you may be saying, no, Reverend Jill, why do you think I'm here? Of course this is for me. I want a harmonious life. I want life to be easy. I want it to flow. I want to know the universe is for me. Right? Webster tells us that harmony is a consistent, orderly, or pleasing arrangement of parts, congruence. Okay? Could you live in consistency? Could you live in consistency, order, a pleasing arrangement of all the pieces and parts of your life, congruency? Or would you get bored? Would you have to act up, act out, sabotage perhaps, to create a little excitement in your life, sort of like we see Phil doing in the movie? Or could you live in that congruency? Could you live in that more plateaued sort of area of life rather than the peaks and the valleys? This is an interesting personal question for us to ponder this week. Is this for me? Is this truly what I want? Or do I have some attachment, some need, some desire for drama and trauma even, or chaos? And then I get to problem solve, then I get to fix, right? I feel a sense of accomplishment then. You're all giggling. I see you know what I'm talking about. Right? We have, as humans, we have this tendency, don't we? We have this tendency. Now, we talk around here about our comfort zone periodically. And as I was thinking about comfort zone and how it relates to this story, I was reminded about the energy management systems that we use in our commercial buildings. Now, an energy management system is a big computerized thing that hooks to your air conditioning system that controls the temperatures. We put thermostats in the suites, and we have a set point. And let's say the set point is 75 degrees. And we might give them 1 or 2 degrees higher or lower that they can control for comfort in their suite, but it's in that range. And that's very much like our own comfort zones. We sort of have this set point that's subconscious to us about how our life is. And we can move up and down a little bit within that, but we usually end up balancing ourselves back out to that point. And what happens is when we get out of that comfort zone, when things start to heat up and get really good or really easy, if we haven't expanded our consciousness, if we haven't expanded our awareness sufficiently to receive that good, what are we going to do? We're going to sabotage it and go right back to that comfortable set point, aren't we? Yeah, we're going to go right back to that comfortable set point. Sometimes when things get too good and we haven't grown sufficiently to take the expansion, we're going to sabotage the situation. We have to watch for that in our lives. We have to watch for that. And that's where that question of, is divine harmony for me? Is divine harmony for me? When we go to the science of mind, the philosophy that we teach from here, and it is written by our founder of Centers for Spiritual Living, Ernest Holmes. And he defines harmony in the glossary. And he says, the secret of all progress is getting into a right relationship with the universal. And universal, of course, is another name for God. In tune with the infinite order is harmony. In tune with infinite order is harmony. Contacting infinite intelligence, recognizing the Father within, God within us, accepting the underlying laws of creation. We know how creation works and that we can work with that system. And then moving in its mighty rhythm, moving in that rhythm, stepping into the natural flow of life. That is harmony, according to Ernest Holmes. He also says that once our consciousness becomes stabilized through security founded on a conviction of the nature of God, and we come to have an inner awareness that the creative intelligence of the universe resides at the center of us. That's a big statement. The creative intelligence of the universe resides at the center of us. Then will our experiences take on a pattern of harmony, a natural outflowing of our inner security. Holmes is telling us about right living, about how to live, isn't he, in this ideas about harmony, suggesting that we tune in to the harmony of the universe and live in compliance with that, rather than resisting it, fighting against it, ignoring it, or trying to, but creating all that havoc and chaos in our lives. He suggests we live in compliance with that fundamental nature of ourselves and of God. Again, because God is at our center. Imagine that within the center of you is, what's that thing called? A gyroscope, right? The gyroscope just stays put. It stays on track. It stays in balance. And if we move, it comes back, right? But if we keep resisting it, all we're doing is resisting. We're creating all the force and the energy outside of it. It's holding itself steady. We're creating the chaos, right? We're creating the chaos. And that's what Ernest is telling us. When we're not in compliance with the fundamental nature, we feel out of alignment in our inner and outer world. And it feels a little like, anybody ever had a car that goes out of alignment and you're driving down the freeway and you're fighting the wheel that's trying to pull you over here and you're like, come on, no, come on, no, come on, right? Feels like you're out of alignment. And that's what our lives feel like. When we're out of alignment, we're getting pulled the wrong direction. We're getting pulled the wrong direction. So when we can finally embody this teaching as a part of who we are, we will experience this sense of inner security. And I can say that with confidence because I've had that experience. I've had times in my life where it's all just come into alignment. It's all just, we talk about the peace of God that passes all understanding. This idea of harmony and alignment is very similar because suddenly you just feel like everything clicks into place. Everything is in alignment. Everything flows perfectly. We're in harmony and balance. Fears dissolve. Limitation vanishes. And we just have no peaks, no valleys, no drama, no stress. It is possible. Is every day perfect? No challenges? No, absolutely not. We still have stuff come up. It's how we deal with it. It's how we flow with it. Because we're in that harmonious alignment. We trust and know that God is the center and the source of us. And that everything that happens is for our good. That we live in this friendly universe. And it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I think this particular idea is some of the best part of our teaching because it really does teach us how to live, to get into that place of harmony, that place of alignment with the divine, to build our trust, to build our faith. We live in the natural order and life just seems to flow for us. We don't get sick, we don't have financial challenges, relationship issues, or feel lonely or afraid. Because we know all of those things that even if they're occurring in our lives, that they're occurring in divine order, and that we figure out our way and our process through it. We use our spiritual tools. And this is the path of our spiritual growth, is stepping into this idea of harmony. Cooperating with God's Spirit in us and experiencing love and harmony as us. That's what we say when we are talking about revealing our spiritual magnificence. It's going to that greater and greater expansion of who we are as the spiritual beings that we've come here to be. And Holmes explains that to us in these quotes about living in harmony with the divine, with the Father within us. with God at the source of our being. So do you remember when I said in the very beginning that it's a story about love, but not necessarily a love story? Well, there's a scene in the very beginning when Phil, the weatherman, meets Rita, the producer. And it's in the newsroom before they leave to go to Puxatawny. I'm going to invite you to watch his eyes. Okay? Watch his eyes. Joe, you have that clip? Okay.
Oh, come on. I want to stay an extra second in Punxsutawney, please.
Well, Rita thinks it'd be a great idea to stay around for some of the other events, get some incredible footage. The people and the fun, the excitement.
You haven't worked with her yet, have you? She's really nice. I think she's going to be a really good producer. You guys are going to have fun.
Mm-hmm. She's fun, but not my kind of fun. I will be here for the fun. Rita!
Did you see his eyes? Something was going on there. You could see that, and I think that's the part where his soul saw it, he felt it, but then he went right into being cynical and sarcastic, right? Yeah. So this is the harmony that Phil sought at the deepest level of his soul. And the universe provided him in many, many ways to take that expansion, many opportunities to grow, to work out in his spiritual journey, not only to find love, but to be love, to become love, and to experience that divine harmony. I hope you can join us this afternoon, or this morning, actually, 11:30, for the show. You can see the whole movie then and the whole thing and the way it all unfolds. If you haven't seen it in a while, it really is a cute show. So I invite you to stay with us at 11:30 and have some popcorn and watch the movie. But now let's take a look at our practicing the principles and see how we might find more love and harmony and a little less chaos and drama in our lives this week. You up for that? All right. Number 1. Look for the good and praise it. Look for the good and praise it. I invite you to contemplate and journal what setbacks in your life turned out to be setups for your good. Things that you thought were, oh my gosh, this is just the end of my life, turned out to be, wow, if that hadn't happened, this wouldn't have happened, this wouldn't have happened, and this wouldn't have happened. Look at those times, journal about those times, reflect on them, and praise them. Praise them. And this will help us to build our faith in the fact that the universe is for us, right? The universe is for us, and that we're always in the right place at the right time. Number 2, are you a drama queen? No, nobody in this room. Where in your life is chaos and drama active? Have you ever thought about it or looked at it in your life? A lot of times we find ourselves surrounded by drama queens and don't know why. Then we have to think about that law of attraction thing. So this week, where in your life is chaos and drama active? So let's take a look at it. Make a list of 5 or 10 things that create drama in your life this week, and then notice if there's any patterns or common factors in that situation. And then I invite you to create an affirmation to change or tame your inner drama queen. Number 3, is this for me? That's the question we ask in the talk. Is this for me? Meditate on the God quality of harmony. Go to your Science of Mind text, look it up in the back in the glossary, and then take that Joyous Living Journal quote from today into your meditation this week, and that'll be included in your Mindful Monday email. If you're not getting that, you can sign up in the lobby for it, or you can, if you're at home, you can send me an email and we'll get you added to the list. That's the weekly news, it's not a newsletter, it's a weekly email that I send you that has all of the quotes and notes and more details about this that you can have. So the quote is, spiritual growth is a sense of harmony in your human affairs with no great emotional roller coaster or fluctuations in facing the human condition. It is not based on outcome or income. It is the natural spiritual state. Is this for me? Is this for me? Is divine harmony the way I want to live my life? So discovering and embodying the God quality of harmony that resides within us is a powerful leap, not a step, a leap on our spiritual journey. We see harmony reflected in nature. We see disharmony reflected in some of the outpicturing of things that are happening, don't we? You know, we see it in too much plastic in our oceans. That's disharmony. That's out of alignment with the natural order of things. So we can see those impacts, but in the big elevated perspective, we see the divine harmony. We see the divine order that nature is, that Spirit has created. We can experience that within ourselves as well. So I want to close today with a quote from Ernest Holmes, who said, "What we should learn to do is to cooperate with God's Spirit in us. Its whole nature is love and harmony. Therefore, we shall get the best results when we live together in harmony and love toward each other. For out of this love and harmony should flow a greater creativity, a happy livingness, and an expectant enthusiasm." I love that quote. Cooperate with God's Spirit inside of us. It's the gyroscope again, isn't it? Cooperate with that. Don't be bouncing it around. Cooperate with it in harmony and love. So this week, let's choose to live together in harmony and love towards each other. So it is. So it is. Would you join me for a prayer as we anchor this morning? How good it is that we come together in community today as we celebrate this day, this thing called life. We are here in community. We are gathered with each other. And we recognize in this gathering that God is all that there is. It is the infinite presence, the infinite power, the harmony of the universe, the order, the balance, the alignment. It is infinite love, unconditioned, unconditional. And it loved so much that it created of that love all that is, including me and each one gathered here, both in the room, online, watching this morning, and those watching later. For we know that we live in an infinite unity. We live in wholeness, connectivity, connection, interdependency. We are one. We are one in each other. We are one in spirit. And so accepting this unity, knowing this unity, embodying this unity. I speak my word this morning for and about each of us, knowing that we have gathered here this day by divine appointment. There are no accidents. We live in an orderly universe. And we know that our time together is a blessing to each other as we have communicated and connected in shared experiences. I know that each of us is blessed to live in this divine harmony, and that we each have our comfort zone, and that we can grow in consciousness and expand that and continue our growth and expansion on and on and on. Just like Groundhog Day continued on and on and on, our growth continues on. And we grow and we expand and we just deepen in joy and harmony and balance and this thing called life. And I know that being in this community supports us in that growth as we support each other, as we can lean on each other, and as we support the greater community of Scottsdale. I know for anyone this day that has anything on their heart that they are seeking prayer around, as they lift that into the consciousness of this prayer, that we hold them in our own consciousness, in our love. We surround them with the love and the light, knowing that whatever the need is, it is fulfilled with grace, with joy, with love, with ease. If there is something to be healed, that healing is revealed in this moment. Knowing that the body is designed in balance and in harmony and knows exactly what to do to heal itself of any dis-ease. Knowing that any financial need that is there, that if there is financial flow that is necessary or investment ideas or whatever it might be, that that source is there also, that the divine ideas flow. And that for creative expression, employment, whatever the need is there, that the perfect right opportunities are presenting themselves in perfect alignment, in perfect harmony, the perfect right place, in the perfect right way, right here, right now. And I know divine love and relationships, and that we're all in that interconnected unity and relationship right here and now. And that as we open to receive and to be love, that we receive love. And how grateful I am for this knowing that this is how life works, that we live in this infinite harmony, and that we can choose to step into it in powerful and vivid ways. And so in that gratitude and in this joy and thanksgiving, I release this into the action of law, the activity of mind, knowing it's already done. For the word spoken is the word made manifest. And we know that the law simply acts on the word according to our beliefs. And so we release this, we let it be, and we affirm together. And so it is.